You're about to do something simple. Make a phone call, post something online, show up somewhere. Before you do it, there's a feeling. Not quite anxiety, not quite fear, just a heaviness. Like you're carrying something extra that shouldn't be there. You can't point to what it is exactly, but it makes the simple thing feel harder than it should be. This feeling shows up in quiet moments. You're getting ready to speak and you hesitate. You're about to share something you made and you hold back. You're meeting someone and before you even arrive, you're already tired. It's not the activity itself that's exhausting. It's everything else around it. The invisible layer of what you think is supposed to happen, what people might think, how you're supposed to be. Most people don't recognize this as expectations. They just feel the weight. They feel like they have to show up a certain way, say the right things, perform to some standard they can't quite define. It's not written down anywhere. No one explicitly told them the rules. But the rules are there anyway, shaping what they do and what they avoid. The weight isn't in the action. It's in trying to meet something that was never clearly stated. You see this most clearly when you compare how you act alone versus around others. Alone, things feel lighter. You move through tasks without overthinking. You try things without worrying if they're good enough. But add other people, even just the possibility of being seen, and the weight arrives. Suddenly there's a right way and a wrong way. Suddenly you're monitoring yourself, adjusting, second-guessing. The task is the same. What changed is the expectation layer. What makes this hard to talk about is that expectations feel normal. Everyone lives with them. You assume that's just how life works, that the pressure is part of being an adult, part of being responsible, part of caring what happens. And some of that is true. But what people don't realize is how much of the weight is unnecessary. How much of it comes from expectations they never agreed to, don't actually believe in, but carry anyway because they don't know how to put them down. Expectations start early. As a child, you learn what gets approval and what doesn't. You learn what makes people happy with you and what disappoints them. Those lessons stick. They become the template for how you think you're supposed to be. Even after you grow up, even after you leave the people who set those early expectations, the patterns remain. You're still trying to meet standards that were set years ago by people whose opinions might not even matter to you anymore. Some expectations are external. Other people actually do have standards for you. Your family wants you to be a certain way. Your friends expect you to show up in a certain role. Your workplace has requirements. Those are real. But what happens is you internalize them. You take the external expectation and make it part of how you judge yourself. Now it's not just that someone else wants something from you. It's that you've decided you should want it too, even if you don't. The invisible ones are the hardest. These are expectations no one actually stated but you absorbed anyway. You think you're supposed to have your life figured out by a certain age. You think you're supposed to be productive all the time. You think showing weakness is failure. Asking for help is burden. Admitting you don't know something is shameful. Where did those ideas come from? Often you can't point to a specific source. They're just in the air. You pick them up from culture, from watching other people, from trying to fit in. What makes expectations heavy is that most of them are vague. They're not clear rules you can follow. They're general feelings about how you should be. Be successful. Be confident. Be likable. Be interesting. What does that actually mean? It's undefined, which means you can never fully meet it. There's always a gap between where you are and where you think you should be. That gap creates constant low-level stress. You're always falling short of something you can't even clearly describe. The mind also adds expectations in real time. You walk into a situation and immediately start predicting what people want from you. Most of those predictions are guesses, but you treat them as facts. You think they expect you to be funny, so you try to be funny. You think they expect you to be serious, so you suppress humor. You think they're judging you, so you monitor every word. In reality, they might not be thinking about you at all. But the expectation you created in your head becomes the weight you carry through the interaction. Expectations also stack. It's not just one thing. It's the expectation to be good at your work, plus the expectation to be available to friends, plus the expectation to stay healthy, plus the expectation to be informed, plus the expectation to have something interesting to say. Each one alone might be manageable. Together they're crushing. And because they're invisible, because they're just background assumptions about how life should be, you don't realize you're carrying all of them at once until you're already exhausted. The other thing that happens is you start expecting things from yourself that you'd never expect from someone else. If a friend told you they were tired and needed a break, you'd understand. But when you're tired, you tell yourself you should push through. If someone else made a mistake, you'd see it as normal. When you make one, you see it as proof you're not good enough. The standards you hold for yourself are harsher than anything external. That internal pressure is often the heaviest part. The first shift is just recognizing that the weight exists. Most people carry expectations without knowing they're doing it. They just feel tired, overwhelmed, reluctant to do things. When you start paying attention, you notice the extra layer. You're not just doing the thing. You're also managing an internal narrative about how it should go, how you should perform, what it will mean if you don't meet some invisible standard. Seeing that separation, the thing itself versus the expectation around it, is where change starts. Once you see it, you can start asking questions. Whose expectation is this? Did I choose it or did I inherit it? Is it actually true or did I assume it? Most expectations don't hold up under examination. You think people care about something and they don't. You think you're supposed to be a certain way and there's no actual rule saying that. You think failure will be catastrophic and it's usually just uncomfortable. The expectation was never as solid as it felt. It was just a story you were telling yourself. This doesn't mean all expectations are false. Some are real and worth meeting. But the ratio is off for most people. They're carrying 10 expectations when maybe 2 actually matter. Learning to sort through them, to separate what's real from what's imagined, what's important from what's just noise, that reduces the weight significantly. You stop trying to meet every possible standard and focus on the ones that actually align with what you care about. What helps is testing expectations. You think you have to respond to messages immediately. What happens if you don't? Usually nothing. You think you have to explain yourself when you say no. What if you just say no? People accept it. You think you have to be impressive. What if you're just honest? Often the reaction is better than when you were performing. Most expectations are more flexible than they seem. The rigidity is in your head, not in reality. You also start noticing when the weight arrives. It's not constant. It comes up in specific contexts, around certain people, in certain situations, when you're being evaluated or compared or judged. That's useful information. It tells you where the expectations are concentrated. Maybe it's not that you need to change everything. Maybe you just need to address the specific areas where the weight is crushing you. The rest you can leave alone. Another shift is giving yourself permission to not meet expectations. That sounds simple, but it's not. Most people have built their identity around being someone who meets expectations, who doesn't let people down, who handles everything. Choosing not to meet an expectation feels like failure, but it's not. It's choosing what matters. You can't do everything. You can't be everything to everyone. Letting go of some expectations isn't weakness. It's choosing where to put your limited energy. The weight also lifts when you stop expecting things to feel easy. A lot of the pressure comes from thinking you shouldn't struggle, shouldn't feel uncertain, shouldn't need help. Those are expectations too. The expectation that you should have it all figured out, that things should be smooth, that difficulty means you're doing something wrong. When you accept that most things worth doing are hard and unclear and take time, the struggle stops feeling like failure. It just feels like the process. Expectations don't disappear. You'll always have some. Other people will always have opinions. You'll always have standards for yourself. The question isn't how to eliminate expectations entirely. It's how to carry only the ones that matter and let go of the rest. That's a skill. It requires paying attention to what you're carrying and deciding whether it's worth the weight. What changes is the relationship with the pressure. It's no longer invisible. You see it for what it is, which is mostly assumptions and guesses and inherited ideas that you never examined. Some of those are worth keeping. Most aren't. The ones that align with what you actually value, those can stay. The ones that don't, those you can set down. Not all at once. Not perfectly. But gradually as you notice them and realize they're not serving you. The people who seem lighter aren't people without expectations. They're people who've gotten clear about which ones matter. They've decided what they're optimizing for and stopped trying to meet every possible standard. They disappoint people sometimes. They don't do everything they're supposed to. They're okay with that because they know they can't carry it all. That clarity creates space. It makes life less exhausting. This also changes how you show up. When you're not carrying invisible weight, you're more present. You're not monitoring yourself constantly, not performing, not trying to manage what people think. You're just there. That makes interactions easier. It makes work more straightforward. It makes decisions clearer because you're not running them through a filter of what you're supposed to choose. You're choosing based on what actually makes sense. The weight will try to come back. Old patterns resurface. New expectations get added. Someone's disappointed in you and you feel the pull to meet their standard even when it doesn't fit. That's normal. The skill is catching it early, recognizing the weight before it settles in, and deciding whether to carry it or not. Sometimes you will. Sometimes you won't. The difference is it becomes a choice instead of an automatic burden. What you're left with is a lighter way of moving through life. Not because everything got easier, but because you stopped adding unnecessary difficulty. The actual challenges are still there. The work is still work. The relationships still require effort. But you're not also carrying a constant internal pressure to be something other than what you are. That pressure was never helping. It was just exhausting. Expectations will always exist. The invisible weight will always try to attach itself. But once you see it, once you understand where it comes from and how it operates, you have options. You can carry it consciously, knowing what you're choosing and why. Or you can set it down. Either way, it's no longer invisible. It's no longer controlling you without your knowledge. That awareness alone changes everything. Not all at once, but slowly, steadily, the weight becomes lighter, and life becomes a little more yours.